We're going to take an hour for today's talk. So firstly, let me say good morning to everyone and thank you for joining us today. My name is Teng and I'm part of the team as a consultant. I will be taking you through today's topic, sustainability as a driver of business advantage, the shift from mere compliance to real competitive edge. So today, let us look closely at how sustainability can guide and lead companies to a competitive edge. Okay, before we start, could we just take a minute to have a look to watch our corporate video? Here we go. Okay, before we start, just give me a little bit time to explain our company. Eco Sustainability is a leading consultancy firm. And here are our numbers at a glance. We are currently in 6 countries and we have over 100 projects across the region. We also have a strong team of 21 consultants. And if you stick around this talk series, you probably get to meet most of us. We are also experts in 17 standards, ranging from reporting, carbon credit, to net zero. We are headquartered in Singapore and we have strong presence in Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines. This regional reach allows us to understand and address the unique sustainability issues and challenges and also opportunities in each location. I'm not sure where everyone is from today, but if your country is not listed in here, do reach out to us and perhaps there could be a potential partnership that we could form. Here are the services we offer. Our core service is sustainability reporting. And as you know, that sustainability reporting has become mandatory in many countries in the region. And now it is only a matter of time that more countries will make it mandatory. We do green consulting as well. We help companies decarbonize. And we love carbon credit projects. And currently, we are actually doing a carbon credit project in Indonesia. We also do a lot of training. We partner with universities and learning centers to deliver courses to professionals, SMEs, large and small corporations as well. And the fifth one is we also have a think tank arm under our Climate Policy Lab, where we do standard contribution work at a global level. These are the 17 standards that we are experts in, such as the ISSB, the SASB, the ISO 14064, 67, 68, basically all that is listed on your screen. We cover everything from ESG disclosure to GHG reporting, carbon neutrality, and product carbon footprint. In summary, we work with all the standards that you see on your screen at the moment. Hey, what happened here? That's the end of it. Hey, sorry. Let me jump back to the 5th slide. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, this slide is our pride and passion where we do our work under our think tank, the Climate Policy Lab. All consultants at Eco Sustainability are not just standard users, but we are standard contributors. As you know, there are global standard setters, big names like the ISSB, the SASB, the SBTI, Vera, Protocol, and etc. And then these are the people who set the standards that we use. And then there's sitting on the other side are the standard users, for examples, the preparers who write reports, auditors, regulators, and corporations who follow the rules. And then there's a unique group of people that sits in between, like us, Eco Sustainability, who provides technical commentary, exposure drafts to help co-develop these standards. So today, in Eco Sustainability, you are learning from a group of people who have helped shape the standards, and we are very proud of this. Okay, that is just something a little about us. Some housekeeping rules today. Yes, this session will be recorded, so please do keep your microphones on mute. And if you have any questions, please place it in the chat box anytime. Our team will respond or address them in the Q&A sessions. We love questions, so please feel free to ask, and there's no such thing as a silly question. Okay, so now today's topic leads us to discuss sustainability as a driver of business advantage. And hopefully by the end of this session, you'll be able to have a clear understanding of how, by adopting sustainability practices based on the ISSB standards, of course, can be your business advantage too. What we'll cover today, I've just broken it down to 4 different topics. The first one would be beyond compliance. Is basically understanding that the rules as the floor, basically using the standards as the floor and not the ceiling. And what this means is that we can achieve much more beyond the standards to create long-term value for organizations. Then we'll move on to look into sustainable business strategy according to the ISSB standard as well. And then we're going to highlight some competitive advantages and discover how sustainability contributes success across various areas such as risk, revenue, talent, and beyond. And lastly, we will look into some case studies. Okay. So beyond compliance, the key message today is really like there are 2 different types of companies out there. The first one is those that think of sustainability as a cost of doing business. So basically, they just comply. They have a compliance mindset, which is not a bad thing at all. But these companies will not like new regulations as they would just want to do enough to comply. And then that's compliance mindset. They tick boxes to avoid penalties. And then there's a second group of companies which has a strategic mindset. These companies consider sustainability as a source of competitive advantage. And today we actually see a shift towards sustainability. The sustainability era will actually be driven not by regulation, but by people or corporations seeking transformation. And as you know that as global regulators tighten disclosure, companies must make now like a decision or a pivotal choice where they view these changes as a simple compliance task for them just to comply, or they seize them as a chance for innovation and leadership. Okay. So, yeah, we move on to the next slide. So today we will also look into the compliance landscape. And when I talk about compliance today, we are using the ISSB strategy, which we deem is the mother of all standards. And this standards is actually gaining traction and is used over 30 jurisdictions internationally. So it is also adopted in Malaysia, where I'm from, and it's widely used. So the ISSB standard stands for International Sustainability Standards Board. It has actually released two global reporting standards in 2023, the IFRS S1, which covers general sustainability, and the IFRS S2, which covers climate specifically. So on your screen, you can see four pillars, and both of these IFRS S1 and S2 use the same four pillars: the governance, strategy, risk management, metrics, and targets. Today, we're talking and we're going to focus on this sustainability pillar, which is the second pillar. So basically, what is the ISSB strategy? The strategy is simply about one thing, and companies must explain how sustainability affects their money today and in the future. And this is basically the whole idea. Everything else is just details of how to do that. And if you look on your screen, there are four pillars, and the act of reporting and using this standard forces the corporations to answer four difficult questions. The first one is, who owns this, and how does it affect our strategy? Who owns this? Basically, that's under the governance. The second one is, how does it affect our strategy? What risk are we carrying, and what are we measuring? So basically, by using these ISSB standards, companies go through that discipline seriously to have a clearer strategy and not just a cleaner report. So I hope that all of you can see how we can implement this or use this for your own company. So today I will not go into detail in all these four pillars. There are talks organized by us weekly where we do have a sustainability reporting talk, and hope that you can catch one of the in this series, which we will share later on. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Sustainable business strategy. What strategy means in ISSB? So basically, under the ISSB strategy, it is really not about your 5-year business plan in the usual sense. It means show investors how sustainability risk and opportunities connect to your business and what you are doing about them. So basically, if I could give you an analogy, and for instance, it's like a doctor's report. If you go and see a doctor, the doctor just does not say that you are healthy or you are sick. The doctor pretty much explains what is the risk of your health, how serious it is, and what the treatment plan is. So basically, it is the same with the ISSB strategy. It is your company's sustainability health for investors. Oops. Okay. Basically, the ISSB sustainability strategy has 5 specific disclosure that requires you to report. I will go through each one of them. So starting with the first one, what are your sustainability risk and opportunities? Basically, you need to name them clearly, and you can't provide vague statements like we face climate risk. So you got to be specific in your report and in studying your own company as well. So for example, what could be the risk and opportunity? Perhaps it could be rising carbon tax that may increase production costs by 15% by 2030. Or it could be a statement such as, the growing market for green product is an opportunity worth 200 million for us. So it has to be quantifiable. What the standard says is simple. Basically, we need to be honest about what could hurt you and what could help you. You name it, put a number on it if you can. So that is what we need to disclose under the ISSB standard under risk and opportunity. The second one is business model and supply chain. Basically, it says, how does this affect your business model and supply chain? Where exactly in your operation does sustainability bite? So you can ask questions like, is it your factory energy cost that is costing you? Are your suppliers in flood-prone areas? Are your customers demanding greener products? So basically, you need to map it out, not just mention it. This is what the standards teaches. So basically, the ISSB wants you to trace the impact through your whole business, not just your four walls, but your suppliers and customers as well. So let's move to the third one, strategy and decision. How is this basically shaping your decisions? For example, are you changing your investment plans because of sustainability risk? Are you switching suppliers, or are you redesigning your products, for instance? This is where the strategy can become real, and that you show that sustainability is driving actual decisions, not just sitting in a report that nobody reads. So if your sustainability risks are not changing how you spend money or decisions, the ISSB will want to know why. So it will help you strategize and make decisions. Okay, so number 4, what are the effects? What are the financial effects? This is actually the heart of the ISSB strategy. You basically must show the money impact, not just in words, but in numbers where possible. So everything has metrics and targets, and that has to be quantifiable. We will spend a little bit more time in the next slide on this financial effects. So number 5, resilience. How resilient is your strategy? If things get worse, there's more extreme weather, stricter regulations, or higher carbon tax, higher carbon prices, or new carbon tax, can your business still survive and thrive? So that is the question we need to answer as part of our strategy. So basically, ISSB asks you to test your strategy under different future scenarios and show that you have thought it through. Yeah, so basically you are future-proofing your business in the last strategy, resilience. So you have stress tested your business against tough future. And what are your evidence? So we must find that out, and we must report this as well. So I hope this is just a brief a brief explanation of the 5 things that we must go through. Hopefully that's okay for all of you. Next, well, this is just something fun and punchy quotes to summarize what the ISSB strategy is all about. You can say that the ISSB strategy isn't a report card, it's a diagnosis, it's a treatment plan, and a prognosis, all backed by numbers. So everything again has to be quantifiable. So remember the 5 questions in the previous slide? If you can't answer all 5 with specifics, then you don't have a strategy. You have a wish list. It's just something to ponder about and something to take back with. Um, Another quote would be ISSB's real question isn't, are you sustainable? It's, do you actually know what sustainability is doing to your bottom line? And that is the key. Oops, too fast. Okay, this is the financial part that I wanted to just talk a little bit more today under the Sustainable Business Strategy based on the ISSB standard. So basically, sustainability information must now be connected to financial information. And there are 3 financial dimensions to the ISSB strategy that ISSB focuses on. So you can see on your screen, there is performance, position, and prospect. So let's think about it as your own personal finances. Let's say you have 3 things to think about. Performance is basically how much you earn this year. What you own and what you owe right now, it's your financial position. And whether you can afford your plans for the future is your prospect. So it is so basically, ISSB asks companies to do exactly the same thing, but for sustainability risk. So under the financial performance, what did it cost us this year? So this cover the current financial reporting period. What sustainability related costs or gains have you already shown up in income statements this year? For example, the cost could be energy efficiency upgrades, carbon taxes, fines for environmental breaches, higher insurance premiums due to climate risk. Examples of gains from savings could be switching from renewable energy, new revenue from green product lines, reduce waste and disposal costs. So basically, in simple terms, what sustainability events actually hit your profit and loss account this year? The ISSB must wants you to show this with numbers. So that is your financial performance. What hit the P&L this year? So that is what has already happened. So now let's look into the financial position. So basically, financial position says what is at risk on your balance sheet. And basically, this is about assets and liabilities. What do you own that could lose value because of sustainability risk? And what new liabilities could be building up? And these are the questions. So, for instance, examples of assets at risk could be you have a factory that could be in a flood-prone area. You could have a coal-fired equipment that may become worthless under new regulations, or you may have vehicles that you need to replace based on tighter fuel regulations. So that could be some assets at risk in your company. And examples of new liabilities could be provision for environmental cleanup, loans that tied up to ESG targets that could be called in if you miss them. So basically, under position, it is what is on your balance sheet today that sustainability could make worth less tomorrow. Basically, this is what the ISSB wants you to disclose as well. Okay, let's look at the third financial prospect. Basically, the question is, can we keep generating cash in the future? This is the most strategic dimension of it all. Basically, will your company still be able to generate cash and access financing over the short, medium, and long term, taking into account sustainability risk? Short term in the ISSB standard is up to 1 year, medium up to 5 years, and long term it's beyond 5 years. So some questions we could ask here is, if a carbon tax doubles in 5 years, what happens to your cash flow? Or if water scarcity hits your manufacturing region in 10 years, can you still operate? So these are very significant questions that we may not think about at the moment. But if you use this standard and you start using sustainability as a business strategy, this is something that you could incorporate into your management or strategy. Yeah. So basically, prospect is really asking if your business model is still viable in a world that takes sustainability seriously. And ISSB puts this question on paper and make us answer it. Anticipated effects. Yeah, I'm just thinking if I should go into more details on this slide. So why not? So basically, to summarize this slide, it is the current versus anticipated distinction. If you could use an analogy, think of it as your car. Basically, the current effects are like the warning lights on your dashboard right now, things that have already happened. And the anticipated effects are the mechanic telling you that if you do not fix the engine, it will fail in 6 months. So basically, the standards kind of like teaches us to do both. It wants us to do both. Just to summarize again, the current effects is what has already happened in this period, in this year's financial statement, and anticipated effects is what management expect to happen in the future periods. And this has, I mean, you may think it could be difficult to quantify in a specific number. You don't have to do that. It could be shown as a range if you would like to report this. Okay. Next, this is a similar slide. Okay, so now I've spoken about the strategy and we have looked at the 4 pillars as well. Now let us look into the 5 competitive advantages of sustainability as a driver of business advantage. Okay, the first one is, of course, there are many advantages that we could think about. I'm just highlighting perhaps the top 5 that I like to share. So the first advantage is you attract better investors and cheaper money. Basically, ESG-linked capital is now the fastest growing segment of global investment. Institutional investors, pension funds, sovereign funds, and a lot of major asset managers are actively screening companies based on sustainability disclosures. So companies with strong, credible ISSB aligned disclosures is more attractive to this capital. And also, better ESG ratings typically translate to lower borrowing costs on green bonds and sustainability linked loans as well. Yeah. So basically, ISSB strategy disclosure can lower your cost of capital, and we want to highlight that this is actually a direct financial benefit. Next. Advantage number 2, you make better internal decisions. Here is an advantage that most people may not expect, but when you're forced to quantify your sustainability risk and map them to financial outcomes, you discover things that you may not know. For instance, companies that go through a rigorous ISSB strategy process often find hidden risks in their supply chains that they had not maybe have priced in. They could also find efficiency opportunities, for instance, energy waste, material waste that were invisible before. Also, the discipline of connecting sustainability to money forces better conversations between, for instance, your finance team and the sustainability teams, two groups that often work in silos. So basically, the ISSB strategy is not just a reporting exercise. If it's done properly, it's a strategic audit to your business. And the report is the output, but the value is the real thinking. Yeah. So it really helps your company and the top management or employees at every level to make better decisions. And the third advantage I'd like to share today is early risk management or risk mitigation. You manage risk before it manages you. Later on, I will share two case studies of how two companies that did not manage their risk properly, and that has cost them a lot of millions, a lot of financial damage. Basically, the ISSB forces you to identify and quantify your risk before they become crisis. We're not going to too much of that today. Basically, when it comes to risk, there's a physical climate risk, like floods, droughts, extreme heat that can be planned for once they are identified and mapped to your assets. And there's also transition risk where there could be regulation changes, carbon pricing, shifting consumer demands. All this can be responded to strategically if you see them coming. So basically, how we use the ISSB standard is like being early. It's like buying insurance before the flood season, not during it. So basically, that is how we can mitigate risk by using sustainability as a driver of business advantage. Okay, and the advantage number 4 is you build trust with every stakeholder. Transparency now is a competitive asset. Customers, employees, suppliers, regulators, and communities all respond positively to companies that are honest about their sustainability journey, including the challenges as well. They want to know everything. So customers are increasingly choosing suppliers who can demonstrate ESG credentials. If you cannot show yours, you may not make the shortlist, for examples. One of our stakeholders could be employees, especially younger talent. They want to work with companies with credible sustainability strategies, not just plain slogans. Regulators also treat companies with transparent, rigorous disclosures more favorably than those who appear to be hiding something. So transparency here is a key word when it comes to strategy in sustainability. So transparency done honestly builds trust, and trust is slow to build and fast to lose. And ISSB gives you the framework to build it systematically. This is a long-term game, basically. Okay, next. Future-proof business model. Well, this I feel could be the biggest advantage of all. The world is moving and regulations are tightening. Investors are also, expectations are also rising. When consumers are smarter, their preferences are shifting. Then there are also physical climate impacts as well. So the one question is whether you are getting ready now or being forced to act later. So companies that embed ISSB strategy thinking into how they plan, invest, and operate will find the transition to a low carbon, resource efficient economy far less disruptive in the future. So basically, the ISSB strategy is really asking you to make a choice. Do you want to shape your future or have it shaped for you? So that is the 5 advantages that I want to highlight today. Hopefully, after half the presentation or 3/4 of the presentation, we hope that you can see that ISSB is not a burden. We can use it as a mirror, and it shows exactly how prepared your business is for the world that is coming. The companies that look in that mirror and act on it, on what they see, will be the ones that win. So hopefully we can take that. Oh yeah, what's this slide? Okay, so this has taken us to the last part that I like to share, the case study. We mentioned earlier that Volkswagen, this is the famous Dieselgate scandal, actually. It's one of the most dramatic example of a company that had no credible environmental strategy embedded in its business model, and it paid an extraordinary price for it. So what happened here is that Volkswagen actually installed some devices into their vehicles that could detect when cars are being emission tested. And later on, they were sued and they had to face millions of damages. And it cost them the first loss in 15 years. So under the ISSB strategy pillar, Volkswagen would have been required to disclose how environmental risk affected its business model and whether its strategy was resilient enough to the regulatory change. If they had the discipline then to use the standard and embed this into their strategy, they may be able to avoid this scandal and loss of more than 32 billion US dollars. So this is an example of not embedding the environmental strategy into your business. Another company that had suffered is the Pacific Gas and Energy. This is actually the first company that had climate bankruptcy. Well, basically, in January 2019, they declared bankrupt after being hit with an estimated 30 billion in liabilities tied to wildfires in California. So basically, the company had failed to adequately assess or disclose or invest against the physical climate risk, aging infrastructure in the region in California that is prone to extreme fire conditions. So this is what caused, what brought them down. So in the ISSB strategy, the IFRS S2 requires company to disclose physical climate risk to their business model and run scenario analysis on strategy resilience. So ignoring climate risk and is not a values choice, but at the end, it is a balance sheet choice. So we don't want this to happen to our companies. Next, we can look into Apple. Apple is one of the most valuable brand for 2025. And it's actually ahead of Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Walmart. It has the highest sustainability perception value of any brand, according to Brand Finance. But later on, I'll do a comparison with Microsoft. It is very interesting. But let us look at Apple now. Um, Apple's position at the top is not an assessment of its actual sustainability performance. Um, in fact, it has been criticized. Apple has actually been criticized for labor conditions in their productions, in their facilities, and the links to conflict zones in sourcing of materials and the greenhouse gas emissions. But Apple's position reflects consumers' perception that they are making efforts to minimize their negative impact. Um, so Apple brands itself as a leader in sustainability through the ambitious Apple 2030 goal to make every product carbon neutral. Um, the brands that are best perceived to be sustainable are the brands that explicitly make sustainability part of their branding. So this could be an advantage as well for on how you can use reporting as part of your branding. Um, so Apple is actually at the top of the consumer's perception. Just remember that. And now we look at Microsoft. Microsoft is a leader in sustainability performance, but consumers do not perceive them as such. It's interesting. Um, there is not a statistically significant correlation between actual sustainability performance and perceived sustainability. So Microsoft is actually widely recognized for their aggressive high-level environmental targets. Uh, Research suggests that the company's branding do not fully leverage their sustainability performance compared to other brands. So brands that do not communicate their sustainability performance to their stakeholders fail to maximize the brand and reducing brand value. Um, it is very interesting. So basically, if you look at the perception gap for Apple versus Microsoft, um, the key takeaway is that performance without communication is also a wasted value. So we can report, we are already doing it, but it's the way we communicate is also important. It's something that we want to highlight. If your company is already doing reporting and have, then we should really communicate to your stakeholders as well.
Sorry, Ting, just to interrupt. Your slides are still at the
Oh,
Volkswagen slide.
oh my goodness. Oh, sorry. Um, yes, it is slide. Let's try slide 37 and see where it takes us to. Ah, but you guys could hear what I said, right? So we actually don't really have to go through this again.
Yes, yes, we heard you.
Okay. Yeah, so basically communication is another thing that we need to highlight after your reporting to enhance your brand value. So we can see this clearly in these two companies, although Microsoft is the leader, but the consumer's perception is that Apple is the most valuable brand globally. How are we doing in time? Because the rest are basically case studies. Perhaps I could just share one more case study before moving to any questions that you may have. If you have any questions, you can already start typing into the chat, reflecting into what I have shared earlier. Okay, let's look at HSBC. This is a success story that uses ISSB as their reporting baseline. So basically, HSBC has, this is the first page. Yes. Basically, HSBC has a clear strategy to deliver revenue and profit growth and create long-term shareholder value. So basically, HSBC approach to ESG is rooting in creating long-term value for the customers and the economies they serve, and their financial performance actually reflects the business growth. So we're just going to go through this case study under the governance. The boards actually takes overall responsibility for their ESG strategy, overseeing executive management in developing the approach, execution, and reporting. The board is regularly provided with specific updates on ESG matters, and the board members receive a lot of ESG related training as well as part of their induction and ongoing development. The strategy is actually to transition to net zero, and that is a key priority for HSBC. And since 2020, HSBC has provided and facilitated 393 billion of sustainable finance and investment. So banks do look at this from the banking perspective. They will look into giving green loans into ESG compliant companies. Risk management. HSBC enhanced their climate scenario analysis to assess risk under different temperature pathways. They also have developed climate risk guidelines to embed climate risk into considerations into their credit risk assessment. We're just looking into examples of real life stories of how HSBC is using ISSB standards. Then, of course, there's the metrics and targets. HSBC has made good progress in reducing their Scope 1 and 2 emissions and are currently on track to deliver reductions of more than 90% by 2030 compared to the 2019 baseline. Progress in reducing Scope 3 emissions in their supply chains, proving slower than they anticipated. So basically, what they did was they put metrics and targets into their reporting, so it is very clear. And now HSBC is focused on achieving net zero in their operations, travel, and supply chain by 2050. This is another success story, but I think we only have 10 minutes left. So perhaps I could go into the Q&A session. If you have, this is another ISSB story, a small coffee farm. And even, this is quite fun. Even Coldplay is using sustainability reporting as the key strategy. Okay, I think we have 10 minutes left, and I'd like to move into the Q&A session. If you have any question, perhaps you can drop it in the chat. Oh, the slides are not changing. Sorry about that. Now I see it. Is there any slides that you need to see, that you want to see again, or perhaps do you have any questions on the sharing today? Okay, we have a question. Keegan, would you like to answer that, or? Okay. So the question was, since this webinar series discusses sustainability reporting in Southeast Asia, may I ask whether all countries in this region have already mandated IFRS sustainability disclosure standards, or whether adoption is still different from country to country. Thank you, Cynthia, for the question. And Keegan has helped me answer it, and it says, oh, I lost it. Most of it have already adopted the ISSB, and for those who have not, it's in the plans. Yeah, so it is actually currently been adopted in over 30 jurisdictions worldwide, and it is growing as well. So we use ISSB as the baseline, and we can and not the ceiling. Um, Thank you for the question, Alistair. Any recommendations on how best to use AI to compile your ISSB report? Oh, I think this one we probably need another webinar, but perhaps Keegan can help to answer that as well. Any recommendations?
Hi, Alistair. Thank you so much for the question. The question is, any recommendations on how to best use AI to compile your ISSB report? I would say the biggest use for AI in reporting is actually in the data collection and the data processing. So in the ISSB, there is one of the content areas actually metrics and target, and also for ISSB S2, it's for climate related financial disclosure. So you have to do a lot of work to collect data for your greenhouse gas report. I'd say that's one use case that I can think of, because for reporting, the most difficult part is actually on the data collection and then data processing. There are many companies who are already using AI. For example, carbon accounting softwares. Uh, they're using technologies to make data collection much easier. Yeah, that would be my thoughts. Over to you, Ting.
Yes, yeah, we have about 6 more minutes left. Any last questions? Well, basically, just but keep them coming if you have, but I'm just gonna summarize this. And we hope that today we have shared how we can use sustainability as your business advantage. Um, okay. If there are no more questions, perhaps I could just carry on. So basically, we have this sustainability talk series. We have it every Monday, and the next one we have is gonna be presented by our in-house consultant, Hu Hing Hing. She will be talking on the Malaysia's National Sustainability Reporting Framework, NSRF. So don't miss this out. It is relatively new as well. It's a new topic that we are sharing as well. I think we will have more series coming up. We only have the next one planned, and we will share more in our community. So please join our LinkedIn and our WhatsApp community to get our latest news on what we have to share next. Building a world where every company is a sustainability superstar. We would love that. And let's stay in touch. These are our connections, our Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and our website. And if you have any queries and if you want to keep in touch or contact us, please contact any one of us on the screen. Hing Hing and I are based in Malaysia. Henry Rantau is based in Indonesia. And Ariel is based in Singapore, in the Philippines, right?